by creating love to learn among learners. She has a postgraduate degree in English education and a teacher training, that is CIDTTC, from Cambridge University. She also has an honorary doctorate in Old Brain Child in ECE for my indigenous old brain metal. She also designed curriculum, namely PEARL, that is play, engage, activate, reflect, and learn for preschools, which is being used in all Jane toddlers across the country. Not only the Jane toddlers, it is being used by ECE across 35 preschools also. She is an author, poet, singer, apart from being a teacher, a content developer, and an administrator too. She has so far trained more than 3,000 teachers in the following areas: child psychology, differentiation, design think approach, assessment at early childhood level, multiple intelligence, design learning spaces, principles of lesson planning, classroom management, six thinking hats, flipped versus blended classrooms, language acquisition at preschool, low-cost teaching aids workshop, activity-based teaching at ECE, tech-led classes and cloud-based learning, whole brain model, and the list goes on and on and on, teachers. And she has been awarded as Inspirational Leader from IBS and SOE, Best Innovation and Practices in Early Childhood Education by SOE in Dubai's World Summit, Best Teacher Award for 3 times, and Acharya Devo Bhava Award by Brain Feed Max in 2016. And the list goes on here also again and again. And also, she has developed content and assessment for grades 6 and 7 for English Olympiad. And she has reviewed English textbooks of grades 4 and 5 for Ratnasagar publications. I think the list is going on and on, ma'am. We welcome you for the session. So the platform is yours, ma'am. Please take over. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your lengthy introduction. Yeah, thank you very much. And good afternoon, all of you. Can you just help me out to share the screen? Like, is it okay? Am I able to share the screen, or you need to give me the permission?
Ma'am, the permission.
Yeah, I think
it is done.
That's great. Good afternoon, all of you. I know that post lunch is always very, very, scary for most of the teachers, but for me, it's not, because I am energetic. Even at the age of 59, I want all the teachers also to be energetic, limitlessly rather, right? Because age is only a number for all of us, because we, especially the pre-primary teachers, being with young children, we will be all the time young. Many a time, many people have asked me, why did you choose this particular profession? Then I said that I would like to be young till my death. That is the reason why I have chosen this profession, I said. So let's be young and then let's be energetic. Right. Having said this, today's topic is planning and preparation. I call it as for the teachers, by the teachers, and of the teachers, because it's for all of us. And unless and until we focus on this part of it, we won't be able to really reach out anything. Anyway, before I start, I just want to share one story. All of us are pre-primary teachers, so we love to share the stories. Yeah. Now, once upon a time, there were 3 fish, I believe. They were living in a beautiful small pond, which is adjacent to a bigger river. And first fish's name is Plan Ahead. Second fish's name is Think Quickly. The third fish name is Wait and See. So again, I'm repeating, the name of the first fish is Plan Ahead. The second fish has the name as Think Quickly. And the third fish has the name as Wait and See. Okay, they were very, very happy in their pond. Once it so happened that 2, fishermen, after their catch is over, at the end of the day, they were carrying a heavy load of their catch and they were going back home. And they happened to cross this particular pond. And they were surprised to see such a beautiful pond with a lot of fish around. And they thought that, wow, we got a beautiful place for our work. Can I request somebody to... Can I request everyone to mute? Right. So then the conversation between the 2 fishermen went like this. Oh, we got a very beautiful place to fish. Now tomorrow I'm sure that my wife and my children will be very happy because we are going to catch a lot of fish. And what they said, they stood near the pond and they have decided to come back tomorrow, that is next day, to catch all the fish in the pond. And all the three fish, by the name, plan ahead, think quick, and then wait and see, have overheard this conversation between the two fishermen. And plan ahead immediately said that, oh my God, tomorrow they are going to come and catch us. So I'm going to surely swim down the river and I'm going to save myself. This is what she said aloud. And think quickly, she said, she nodded her head and she said that, I know that I'll be able to come with some kind of a plan tomorrow, don't worry. And wait and see lazily said that, oh, let's wait and see. No, why are we in a hurry? Tomorrow, no, they are going to come. And the day went on like that. Next day morning, obviously, the fisherman came. And then what has happened? The plan ahead has already swam across and swam down the river and saved herself. And the think quick as well as wait and see were caught in the net. Think quick, what she has done is, quickly she rolled her belly and she pretended as if she's dead. When the fisherman saw that this is a dead fish, immediately he pulled it out of the net and he threw it back into the water, and that's how the think quickly survived. Whereas wait and see was caught in the net and it was killed. Why am I saying this? The first two things, plan ahead and think quickly, are more important and very crucial skills for all the teachers. Whether you are a pre-primary teacher or whether you are a manager or whether you are an administrator, whether you are a leader, whether you are a senior teacher or whether you are handling higher education, whichever level that you are having, you are teaching. So plan ahead as well as think quickly. These two are very, very crucial skills that all of us as teachers have to really remember. Having said this, you may ask me that, okay, this is a fictitious one. In what way it is going to be practically possible? And then in what way it's going to be practically useful to us? Yeah, I'll give you a very concrete example. Okay, most of you, I'm assuming you're from Bangalore. Some of you must be from Hyderabad also, or from whichever place you are in. I just want to take the example of Bangalore for that matter. Bangalore used to be such a beautiful city, and all of us know it used to be like a paradise. Especially in South India, we used to call it as paradise of South India. And then people used to throng in towards Bangalore during summer. Because I remember I used to look forward for summers so that I can spend 1 month over there with my brother in Bangalore, because it used to be so beautiful. The climate used to be very, very pleasant and all. And over a period of time, now all of us know people do not want to travel to Bangalore. And then people, even within, the people who are staying in Bangalore also, they don't want to travel from one place to another place. Why? Because of the chaotic traffic situation, and everywhere there is a road repair, everywhere excavations are happening, and then everywhere digging and lot of potholes and all. The beautiful city got turned into a chaotic place, whether it is Hyderabad or whether it is Bangalore or whether it is Mumbai for that matter, all the major cities. Why? I'll give you the fact here. We never planned properly to accommodate more number of people in our cities, right? And then we never planned ahead of the traffic. We never planned. We have not laid the roads for the comfort of the people who are living in it. Why it is happening is, when we, as educators, I always feel that we need to take the blame, because we have not created generations who can really plan well, right? See, I may sound little rude, but it is the fact. So which we have to take it with a pinch of salt, I feel, right? Because we have never taught them how to plan well. Now, suppose in Hyderabad, if I have to give an example, the Hyderabad drainage system is meant for 2 centimeters rain only. Now, in the recent time, in the just 1 week to 10 days ago, there were heavy floods. All of you have seen the condition of Hyderabad through your TV channels. Why? Because 20 centimeters rainfall was there. So we were not prepared. Right. Similarly, even in Bangalore, we have never planned anything for future. So if I have to mention any other country, one is US that I have to mention, though I'm not a lover of US and I never went there also, but I know it. So they have planned 200 years ahead of their, construction of the cities and all. So that is what is called planning. If we plan ahead, then we can avoid all these untoward emergencies and then any kind of a chaotic situation. And if I have to give you any beautiful example of planning, Netherlands is the best one, which I really loved when I visited that particular place, because Netherlands is meant for floods. Lot of very continuous, constant floods would be there, but the way they have planned their city is the drainage system is so meticulously done that never they face any kind of a problem. They need not have to make the people move from one place to another. The people in the town and the city, they never face any kind of inconvenience at all. So now that is the reason why I thought that I will bring in concrete example also, so that all of us will be able to associate more than a fiction. But fiction is also very, very important for all the teachers, especially in the pre-primary, because you need to create that kind of a imagery in the minds of the children. Having said this, I'll move to the next slide of mine. One second. Yeah, just to, yeah, this anyway, as I told you, I have tagged it as for the teachers, by the teachers, and of the teachers, because I'm also a teacher. I was a teacher. Right now, plan. Now we are focusing on planning and preparation. Plan, I took it as an acronym, and plan is for me, prepare. What you prepare and all, I will talk to you. Learn, assess and analyze, and navigate. So let me come back to the acronym. Prepare. What is that you prepare? You prepare well for your class. You prepare mentally and physically also, because if you are not mentally healthy, then your body will not allow you to really, put forth your plan into action. And then vice versa. If you are not physically well also, your mind will not allow you to put forth your plan into action at all. So that is the reason why you need to be prepared. So while preparing yourself physically and mentally, you also have to prepare well for the content. Content, of course, is important, but it is not be all and end all, because the skill set is more important and competencies are more important than the content. So what we need to do is how to integrate the content with the skill set, and how to integrate the content with the activities and all we need to prepare. That is nothing but the lesson plan that we are doing. But lesson plan is not just the documentation. I'll just go further in talking about this next word, learn. What do you learn? What do you learn when you are talking about preparation and planning? You learn about your learners. You discover your learners. Unless and until you discover your learner, you will never be able to really prepare anything at all. Learning, in fact, has to come first, right? Because it is the acronym, I have just put it aside and to the second position. But let me be very honest in saying that we need to discover the learners. We need to discover our students. Every child has to be discovered first. So in this connection, I love to quote Mahatma Gandhi. He said that, go to the people, live with them, love them, build on what they have, and start with what they know. Once again, I'm saying, go to the people, you go to the children. In order to learn about them, in order to know each and every learner of yours, you need to go to them. Unless and until you go close to them and you spend some time with them, you will never be able to really learn who are your learners and what they want and all, right? And then love them, live with them. So second one is live with them. So when you live with them, I'm not asking you to physically go and stay with them, but 800 hours per annum that each and every teacher would be spending with the children. So that is called, living with them. When you live with them, what happens is, see, all of us are living in a house, and it's a home rather, where we live along with our family members. So when we live with our family members, we will know the in and out of them. We know their interests, we know their likes, we know their dislikes and all, right? So if you are spending the time productively with your learners, that is called living with them. When you live with them, you will understand what are their interests, what are their dislikes, what are their likes, and then what are they very good at, because we need to catch them right. We need to catch them young. Otherwise, what happens is, if you try to catch them wrong, then it creates a kind of a scar in the mind of the child, and then the child will never be able to blossom to the fullest at all. So that is the reason why I said that, live with them. Then the third point is love them. You love them unconditionally. You can never and never put conditions to your love towards the children at all, especially when you're handling the pre-primary. Let me be very, very honest in saying this. But most of the time, as adults, we fail to understand this aspect and we put conditions. In what way? You may say that, no, ma'am, you don't agree. Yeah, fine. I appreciate those who are not, into this, putting conditions while liking the children, or when they are loving the children and all. But most of the time, unintentionally, we keep sending signals to them by saying that, I like you when you perform well. Yeah, see, we know very instantaneously we will be rewarding the good behavior, and then instantaneously we punish the negative behavior, right? So that way we are sending a signal to the child saying that, I love you conditionally. If you behave well, I like you. If you don't behave well, I will not like you. So, but as early childhood teachers, we should love them unconditionally. We need to accept them as they are. Children are children, and none of us, for that matter, even adults, none of us are perfect, right? So when we are not perfect, how can we expect the perfection from the children, right? So we need to love them unconditionally. So then the next one is build on what they have. Every child is born with certain potential, right? Every child is a genius. He's a born genius. So, and all of us know, it is scientifically also, it is proved that the child at the age of 1.5 years to 5 years has 98% of the creativity in it, in the brain. Whereas by the time the child comes to grade 6 or 7, or for that matter, even primary, they keep losing their creativity. And then by the time they go to the high school level, their creativity levels will fall down to 90%. 90% will come down. That means 10% only they'll have the creativity. And by the time they move out of the school, and as adults, like us, they have only 2% of creativity. See the irony of it. In fact, the schools have to improve and then develop the creativity in the children, but somehow what is happening is, by snubbing them, by creating conditions for them, we are snubbing their creativity and then controlling their creativity. So that is the reason why I said, we need to really catch them right, and we need to understand that every child has potential, and then we need to trigger that kind of and channelize the potentiality towards the what is it called, reality. Transforming potentiality to reality. This is how a teacher has to plan. So every teacher should have one kind of a vision in her mind that, I will transform all the children's potentiality into reality, because every child is born with certain potential. So that is called building on what they have. So whatever may be the potentiality that they have, some children may be very good at music, some children may be good at dance, some children may be good at speaking, some children may be good at physical activities, some children may be very good at mathematics. So catch them right, and then give them more opportunities over there, and then try to transform their potentialities into reality by the time they grow. At the same time, the last one is start with what they know. So this is what I said. It's a simple example why I have given that concrete to abstract is. Concrete is like, we know that all of us are living in one city or the other. Each of us as citizens are facing some kind of problems during this kind of natural calamities and all. So that is the reason from concrete to abstract that I have taken. So you need to start with what they already know. So as pre-primary teachers, we need to start with what they already know. And but just because I said this, start with what they know, just let us not be too conventional in starting the alphabet with A for apple. We need not have to start doing that. By doing this, we are really cutting their creative power. So instead of starting with that, we can actually ask them, what do you know, and what are the words and what are the objects that you can relate with A for alphabet A, right? The moment we say what are the words that are associated and what are the objects that are associated with A, then the child would be able to really come up, and that is how you have to trigger their thinking process. So whatever they know, from known to unknown, we need to do. So this is about learning about the child. My next word in the plan is assess. So we need to assess them. It is not testing. Please don't take me wrong at all. I'm not talking about testing. I'm not talking about content testing at all. We need to assess the child's learning level, what exactly the child has learned so far. So that is called learning level of the child. What exactly the child could learn. Suppose you are asked to teach 4 alphabet in one particular week or 2 alphabet in one particular week, whether the child is able to understand from every aspect of that particular letter. See, letter is one is the associate sound of the letter and the objects that are associated with the letter, and then more in addition to that object as well as the sound, how the letter formation is expected, and all these things, whether the child is able to really get associated or not. That is the assessment, because this is called assessment for learning. It is not assessment of learning. Assessment of learning is not acceptable at all at early childhood, because we are not testing their memory retention. We are not testing what they have learned in the content. We have to really develop their competency. We have to develop their skills. See, from the ability to hear, we have to transform the ability to hear to the skill to listen, right? That is the transformation. That is the curve, the learning curve that you need to focus on. So when I say this, that is called assessment. So how do you take that? Only through assessment for learning, you will be able to do that, right? And then you need to analyze your result. How do you analyze the result is one part of it. Why should you analyze the result? Let me tell you. The analysis of the results will give you a feedback to every teacher. So how it will happen is, suppose I have 25 children in my UKG class or prep 2 class, whichever name that you call it, right? And if 50% of them are doing very well and 50% of them are unable to do that well, that is a feedback that I could reach only 50% of my learners. That is the analysis. This analysis is not to judge any child. This is to analyze your own teaching. You need to analyze your own teaching through the results, right? So this will make you modify your strategies, right? Because we have a lot of planning, and depending upon the learners, learning styles, learning pace and all, we will do it. But at the same time, sometimes it may has to be modified, because every time what we need to do is, I will come to that, pause and modify. So you need to work back. That's the reason why I said that you need to analyze. So you analyze your results in order to get a feedback about your teaching. Then navigate. So this navigation is for the children. Once you analyze your results, once you assess your children, then you create a personal learning ladder for them and navigate them towards learning. That is, instead of just to ability to learn, from the ability to learn to skill to learn to love to learn, right? So they must love to learn. So then once you create that kind of a love component in your learning process, what would happen is, there will not be any glitches at all. You need not have to, break your head for the classroom management and all, because every child loves to learn. When, see, all of us as adults also, we do the things very well which we really love to do. Yes or no? For example, you, suppose you know, who you love to cook, right? And then, and you want to bake a cake for your loved ones, your husband or your own children, then you put in your whole heart and soul in it, and then you bake the cake. Yes or no? Similarly, when the children have the love to learn, then they need not have to get deviated at all. Whereas as adults also, if we are forced to, learn something, or if we are forced to do something which we are not very much interested, then we never put in our heart and soul at all. Yes or no? That's where we say that teachers should be compassionate, teachers should have passion towards what they teach, right? So now we need to navigate the children towards love to learn. So one is from ability to learn. That's the first step. In pre-primary, you need to focus on ability to learn. From ability to learn, you have to make it into a skill to learn. That is, skill to learn means when you are introducing the reading skills and all, when the child is able to identify the words, and then the child is able to identify the word as a whole, and then if he is able to read independently, that is the skill to learn. And then from ability to skill, and from skill to love to learn, then the child would definitely is connected emotionally with the learning process, and then this will help the child to strive towards self-learning skill, which is the most required skill in 21st century. Because see, most of the time, we pre-primary teachers, we would be thinking that, okay, my job is over by the time the moment the child leaves the school from my pre-primary toddlers. So UKG is over, then my job is over. Please don't think in that way, because you are so crucial in the formation of every child, because in the formative stages that you are handling the children. So it is so important for all of you to understand that you as pre-primary teachers have to create the neural pathways to, okay, make more and more new pathways to the children to create the original learning. Because all of you know that 80% of the brain development happens before 6 years. And all of you among the audience among here on in the meeting room are handling pre-primary. So when 80% of the brain development is happening before 6 years, and then you are handling those children, then definitely your responsibility is really very, very crucial. So this you have to keep in mind, right? And then whatever plan that you have, you need to administer it properly, right? So planning is one aspect of it, and administering is yet another aspect of it. We should never fail to administer our plan. So we have to plan our work, and we have to work our plan. Otherwise, it's of no use. It's like creativity. If I have all the ideas in my mind, and if I'm not able to implement it, then all my ideas will remain ideas only. So if I have all the plan in my mind, and if I'm not able to administer the plan and effectively, then all my plans will be kept on paper, like a lesson plan, or in my mind, and they become just mere ideas. Nothing would happen at all, right? So administering the plan is very, very crucial, where all of you have to focus on. And then what you need to do is reflection. So plan and preparation also requires a lot of reflection. So we need to reflect on what we have taught. Has it reached the children or not? If it has not reached, what am I supposed to do? If it has reached, and if some of the children have learned much better than what you have expected, in what way you can engage them? All these things have to be planned very well. You have to pause, you have to pose some questions to yourself after taking the feedback from your learners, and then modify and your pedagogy, and then reach the children out. Okay, now this many a time it will happen to you, and then most of the teachers will get connected to this particular slide very easily. I want to just stop for a while, and I want all the teachers to type in the chat box, what do you think about this? What is your view about this particular slide? Quickly put it in the chat box. Yeah, I'll give you 2 minutes time. Quickly, you put it in the chat box. After seeing this, particular slide, what is coming to your mind? Please. Yes, this really happens. Not prepared properly. Okay, planning on time give us hard headset. Okay, head start. Okay, yeah, pre-planning helps us to execute our teaching well. Very good. And planning was not effective. Lalita Kosraju is saying planning tonight, and okay, planning better than panicking. Okay, planning and executing. Planning is really important. Weekly planning is better than daily planning. Improper planning is the best preparation. Okay, fine, very good. Postponing the things. Effective planning makes our classes productive. Very good. Excellent. Okay, fine. Plan and execute. Fine. With the paucity of time that I think I have to stop over here. Yeah, many a time this happens. You have really planned very, very well. You are a very good teacher. You planned very well. And next day when you go to school, something else would happen. And for most of us, it might have happened also. Why it happens is because we are handling the small kids, and we need to actually reach them out according to their moods. Their mood variation will be there, and whether it is pre-primary or whether it is senior secondary or secondary classes also, this will happen, because sometimes the children are not ready to listen to you at all. So there you don't panic. Many a time it happens. So this is where the second skill that I spoke about, planning ahead, is the first skill. I said that think quickly. I spoke to you about a fish by the name Think Quickly. So what did she do? She quickly flipped her belly and she saved herself. So why am I connecting that with this particular panicking tomorrow is, when you are coming across this kind of a situation where the children are not ready to accept whatever you are teaching, then you have to quickly modify your strategy. Go to a different pedagogy, conduct an activity, engage the children properly, and then bring them back to the learning process. That is called, thinking quickly. So that when you have that kind of a thinking quickly skill, you will never get panic at all. Otherwise, if you don't have a plan B, okay, you have a plan A, all of us have plan A, and if you don't have a plan B, what will happen? We get panicky. That's what has happened in this particular slide. I'm sure that all of us will have plan B also, right? Now, I'm quickly reading out the objectives. All of us know about it, but okay, you will be able to understand the importance of planning and preparation. Will be able to prepare a robust lesson plan, and will be able to learn your learners, and will be able to analyze and assess the learners through proper planning. Will be able to navigate learners towards love for learning. Okay. Now, what are the key aspects of lesson planning? First is the learner. So that's what I need to really spend some time. All of us know we have our learners, but who are they? We need to first understand that. What is their learning style? What is their learning level? What is their learning pace? So unless and until we know all these three things about a learner, we will never be able to reach them out at all. So here all of us know about multiple intelligences. So we know that, forget about multiple intelligences, basic things like, VAC learning, broadly all the learners are categorized into three. One is visual learners, auditory learners, and kinesthetic learners. And if you do not know these basics, these three things, okay, that there are three categories of learners, then your strategy will not work at all, because it never works especially in pre-primary. We can never think that one size fits all. See, now we have 452 learners over here. So each one of them have their own level of learning, level of style of learning, and brain preferences, and then their learning pace. Some of us may learn very quickly, some of us will take some time, whereas some of us may have musical learners, learning ability. Some of us may be kinesthetic learners, some of us may be visual learners, some of us may be verbal learners, and some of us may be intrapersonal learners, and some of us may be interpersonal learners. Unless and until we know who are our learners, we will never be able to design our lesson at all. That is the reason why we call the teachers as architects. They are the architects. So it was an age-old adage also. people were called, teachers were called as nation builders and then architects of the nation. Why are they called as architects of the nation? The people might have thought that, oh, are we designing something? Yes, you are designing the lessons for so many children and individually. You are creating the personalized learning ladder. So obviously, in order to create a personalizing learning ladder, you need to know about your learner. And then you also have to think about what kind of a learning environment that you're going to create. What is the learning environment that you're creating? Is it going to be very conducive, where you're going to give equal opportunities to all? Is your philosophy, and that's the reason why I said that each and every one of us as teachers should have our own vision and the mission. So vision, if I have to share my vision, is to transform the potentiality into reality of every child who meets me. And then my mission statement has to be what kind of a environment I have to create. I have to focus on equity. Equity means everybody has to be given equal opportunities to express themselves, to conduct the activities, to participate in the activities, and to talk about. So then the learning environment can be really spoken of as a very conducive learning environment. And then what kind of a learning experience that you're going to create? So what is the difference between the learning environment and the learning experiences? Environment is the space that you're going to create, okay, and then the material that you're going to share with the children. When it comes to the experience, it is emotionally connected. Okay, so if you make them feel that, yes, my teacher is considering me to be very important part of this learning process, then the children would definitely get connected to you. Otherwise, if you are able to focus only on few children and only few children are getting opportunity to express their views or something, then rest of the children will feel aloof, they feel isolated, they feel neglected. So especially in pre-primary, we need to really create learning experience. More than the environment and material has to be created, but learning experience has to be very, very rich experience. So when I say rich experience, we need to remember that every child is a potential genius, right? And the child comes with certain learning. Most of the time the teachers would think that the teachers as adults can only give information, and because the children do not know information. Sorry, the child has learned already, and then the child has come to you, because the learning happens from the fetus level. When the child is in the womb of the mother, also there is a learning. And you all know about Abhimanyu story, right? So I don't want to take your time over there by repeating that particular story, but you all know that, right? Abhimanyu, how he learned how to chase that Chakravyuha. He has learned when he was in the womb of his mother. Okay, that's the reason why we have to consider them to be adults. Respect them, respect their learning, respect their expressions. Then what would happen? The child will have a very rich learning experience. So once you create that rich learning experience, then obviously the child will get connected to you emotionally, and then love for learning would happen, right? Then the child should has to drag himself. Usually it happens, the child usually drags himself from home because he doesn't want to come come to school at all, and he runs back home because there is something very motivating thing and very beautiful things that are happening at home, that is the love. Whereas the ability to skill to love to learn, if you have to convert, what will happen is the child will start coming to school also running, and he will drag his satchel to go back home because he doesn't want to leave you. So that is the environment that you need to create. That is the experience that you need to create in every child, so that the child will get connected to you personally and emotionally. Right. Now, all of us know what is the lesson plan. It's a roadmap of the instructor about who are the learners. Who are my learners? I'm not talking about LKG, UKG. You need to respect them, that everybody is a potential genius. Okay. And then whether my learners are musical learners, whether my learners are kinesthetic learners, whether my learners are logically strong learners, whether my learners are visually strong learners, whether my learners are verbally strong learners, whether my learners are what is it called, intrapersonally strong learners, whatever. So who are my learners? So that means there you need to do the need analysis. Once you do the need analysis, you will understand who your are your learners. Then what are the learners need to learn? So this is where the content comes. So content is very little part of it I keep talking about. Okay, what we are supposed to teach, what they are supposed to learn should be a part of your lesson plan, of course. And how will they learn? That is more important. For me, what they learn is very less important than how will they learn. Because how the whole beauty of the lesson and whole beauty of the planning and preparation lies in how they will learn. How will you make them learn? What kind of a learning environment you're going to create, what kind of materials that you're going to use to engage everybody, what kind of activities that you're going to design, how are you going to integrate the content with the activities, and how are you going to engage all the children. That is how they learn. And then why the learners are learning whatever they are learning. Why? This question is very, very crucial. So that's where the objectives come into picture. Learning objectives means why are they learning what they are learning. So there must be some purpose. Today, when 450 people are over here, we all of us have gathered here with a purpose, right? What is our objective? Our objective is to improve ourselves, okay, upgrade ourselves, right? All of us want to really improve and then make ourselves great teachers. So that kind of a purpose also should be connected with the children. So because when 800 hours are being spent by the teachers with the children per annum, minimum, I'm talking about minimum thing. So whatever they are learning, they should have a purpose, and every minute that the child spends in the school should be utilized productively. Otherwise, we can never and never allow the children to waste the time at all, right? So because time, million man hours, we say 457 people are there, or 456 people are there into 1 hour. So then how many? 456 hours are being spent together today, right? So that means every time, every minute that we are spending together should be productively utilized. Suppose it is not utilized, and if it is not very purposeful, if it is not very interesting to you, will you stay? You will not. Similarly, the child also withdraws from the learning process when the connect is not being made, when that why is not being answered. Why am I learning this? Why my child has to learn this? If that question is being not answered by the teacher, no child would be getting connected with the teacher at all, I'm telling you. So this has to be answered through your lesson plan. When will they learn? The timings also are very, very important. So how much of time that you are going to give? In the morning time, you are going to make them learn, or in the evening time. See, timetabling is also very important, right? Where will they learn? So the space is very, very important, because there should be a freedom of movement. Freedom of movement should be there. The child cannot be confined to 4 walls or in the one particular place in a chair, and then you cannot say that no, don't move out of the particular place at all. Can I request the audience to mute? Okay. So space is very, very important over here, because, right, unless and until you give a proper space where the child can move around freely and then utilize all the materials that are required for learning, then the child will never be able to learn anything at all. So most of the time what happens is, we have the material with us, we have the lesson plan and everything, and then we forget to carry the material either to the class, or we forget to take the children to the learning corners. Suppose there are some schools where we create the learning corners, and then lot of sensorial learning corner, and then reading corner, and then resource rooms. Some of the schools call them as resource rooms and all. If the children are not taken to the resource room, and then simply if they are confined to the classroom, then you can never create a learning environment at all. So where will they learn also should be answered by each and every one of you, right? Now, successful lesson planning addresses and integrates 3 key components. One is learning objectives. So what is your teaching goal? What is the teaching goal? Every teacher should have a goal. How you had how I asked you to have a vision and a mission, you also should have a goal. What is the goal in our life? Our life as a teacher, we need to really, as I told you, our goal should be make every child learn something. Minimum level of learning is number one. No child should be left behind. no child left behind. So these are the two things that we need to really focus on, because education is the birthright of every child. Every moment the child spends with us should be productively used, and not a single minute can be, neglected by the teacher or by the learner as well. So that kind of a teaching goal that we have to keep in mind while creating the learning objectives. So the learning activities I have already spoke. How means to accomplish the learning objectives. Learning activities. So learning activities are the means to accomplish the learning objectives. So how will you plan your learning activities? See, learning activities, when we are doing, most of the time the teachers fail to understand that they have to integrate the content with the activities, and they always say that, yes ma'am, with my experience I'm saying, sometimes when we say that, why did you not plan an activity, then they would say that, no ma'am, today I will teach this content, and tomorrow I will have planned an activity. But no, you need to integrate the content with the activity, so that the concept and the skill set would be developed much easier than teaching the content as an individual or a separate entity. So you need to integrate that learning you need to really have, and the clarity you need to have how to integrate the learning activities with the content, right? Assessment to check for the student understanding. This I have already spoken to you, right? Assessment for learning, right? And then in order to get the feedback also, we need to check that. It is never a test. It is not a pen paper test at all. It is only to understand how well the child has understood, how well you have reached out the child. It's only to get a feedback on that, right? Now the roadmap is like this. Before the class also you have to do, during the class you have to do, and then after the class, what you are supposed to do. Before the class, you identify the learning objectives, plan the specific learning activities. This we have already spoken now. I'm just recapping the whole thing. And then you need to...
Sorry to interrupt, ma'am.
Yeah.
We have 5 minutes more. We have a few people raising hands probably for the questions. So we have minutes for the questionnaire, ma'am.
Right. After this slide, I will stop for the questions.
Thank you.
Right? Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so before the class, as I told you, like you need to understand, identify the learners first, and then discover the learners first. Though it's not mentioned in this slide, I would like to still focus on that. You learn who your learners are, and then identify the learning objective and plan the specific learning activities, and then you create a sequence. There should be a sequence. Otherwise, it will not be a proper flow of your lesson at all. So during the class, of course, this is meant for the parents, for as far as pre-primary is concerned, whereas primary and then other classes, it is for the children rather. Because during class, if you share the learning lesson plan for the pre-primary, they may not be able to understand. But if we keep sending the newsletters and all with the parents, we share it so that the parents understand what exactly that. So finally, it is we need to reflect, and then we need to pause, and then we need to conclude how much they have learned. Now here I'm stopping. There's a during the post lesson that you have to reflect how you have taught, and then how many people you were able to understand what you have taught, and how to modify your lesson, and then strategies, and then pedagogy. Right. So now can I just ask some questions? Now they said that there are some questions.
Two people who had raised their hands, can we have them talking to ma'am?
Yes, I don't have any objections.
Thank you, ma'am. Teachers, if anybody.
Or Veda ma'am, you can just read out the question so that ma'am can answer it.
Okay. I was just waiting because they had raised the hand, ma'am. So I was just waiting if they can.
If anybody would like to ask any question, and those who have raised their hands, please feel free.
You can stop the screen share, please. Priya?
Yes.
Should I stop the screen
yes,
share?
Yes, ma'am. So that we can see
okay.
the participants.
Okay, fine. Afterwards, again, I'll do that. Right. How much more time I have?
Ma'am, we have already exceeded the time. It's 3:04 now.
Okay, fine.
Just a small announcement in between. The feedback and the attendance form is being shared the chat group for this session. Request all the teachers to fill in the forms. Thank you.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಅದೊಂದು ಟೈಮ್ ಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಬೇಕು ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೇರೆ ಇದು ಇದ್ದಲ್ಲ ಸೆಷನ್.
Teachers, any questions from your end?